Welcome to Ancient Mysteries. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode, we're uncovering one of the most perplexing cartographic enigmas of all time, a 16th-century map that may depict the coastline of Antarctica long before its official discovery, and perhaps even without ice. How could this be possible? What secrets does the Piri Reis Map hold about ancient seafaring knowledge, lost civilizations, and forbidden geography? Stay with us as we peel back the layers of this enduring mystery. The story of the Piri Reis Map begins not in Antarctica, but in the heart of the Ottoman Empire during the early 16th century. The map is named after its creator, Piri Reis, a respected admiral and cartographer who served under Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Piri Reis was not simply a naval commander, he was also a meticulous compiler of geographic knowledge, drawing from a vast array of sources including ancient charts, sailors' accounts, and perhaps most mysteriously, maps that no longer exist. In the year 1513, he completed a partial world map on a piece of gazelle skin parchment, focusing primarily on the western coast of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and a portion of the northern Antarctic coast. This map was discovered in the year 1929, hidden among neglected shelves in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. What caught the attention of scholars and researchers was not only the map's age or detailed illustrations, but one baffling element in particular: what appeared to be the accurately drawn coastline of Queen Maud Land, a region of Antarctica that is today buried under a thick sheet of ice. According to accepted history, Antarctica was not even officially discovered until the year 1820. Yet here it was, centuries earlier, laid out with a level of detail that suggested knowledge of the landmass when it was free of ice. The idea that the map could show an ice-free Antarctica has sparked enormous debate. Geological surveys using seismic data have revealed the rock structure beneath the ice, which does bear an uncanny resemblance to the landform depicted on the Piri Reis map. The question then arises: how could a 16th-century admiral have drawn such a map with such precision? And more importantly, from what source did he obtain this information? In his own writings, Piri Reis stated clearly that his map was not wholly original. He compiled it using a collection of maps that included some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. He specifically referenced 20 maps and charts, including 8 from the early Portuguese explorers, 4 from Indian sources, and even 1 from Christopher Columbus himself. But it is the mention of ancient maps, those lost to history, that fuels speculation about a forgotten cartographic legacy, one that may have been handed down across generations, possibly originating in a civilization with a far more advanced understanding of global geography than we credit any known culture of the time. The presence of mythical creatures and ships drawn on the map aligns with the decorative style of medieval and early Renaissance cartography. But those embellishments pale in comparison to the geographic anomalies that suggest someone somewhere knew far more about the world's coastlines, perhaps even thousands of years ago, than should have been possible. The true mystery of the Piri Reis map centers on the segment that appears to depict the northern coastline of Antarctica beneath the ice. This region, known today as Queen Maud Land, was not officially explored until the mid-20th century, when seismic mapping during international scientific expeditions revealed the subglacial topography of the continent. What startled researchers examining the Piri Reis map was the apparent match between its coastal outlines and those revealed by modern seismic data, especially when accounting for an ice-free Antarctica. This alignment led some to suggest that whoever created the original source maps must have had knowledge of the continent before it became encased in ice, which mainstream science estimates occurred more than 6,000 years ago. Such a claim challenges both geological timelines and historical records. According to conventional understanding, humanity had not yet developed the navigational tools necessary to sail to the Antarctic region in such remote antiquity. There were no sextants, no chronometers, and certainly no satellites. Yet the cartographic precision of the Piri Reis map implies a knowledge of longitudinal measurement that would have required sophisticated technology or observation techniques not known to have existed in the 16th century, or long before it. Even more intriguing is the orientation and scale of the Antarctic portion of the map. Modern projections have revealed that when the map is rotated and adjusted to correct for distortion, common in early cartographic efforts, the coastlines align with uncanny precision to the landmass beneath Antarctica's ice. Scholars such as Charles Hapgood, who authored Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, propose that the Piri Reis Map may be based on even more ancient charts, produced by an unknown seafaring civilization capable of global navigation. Hapgood suggested that this civilization could have mapped the Earth's coastlines long before the rise of known cultures, such as Egypt, Sumer, or Greece. Hapgood's theory gained temporary traction during the mid-20th century, even capturing the attention of physicist Albert Einstein, who wrote a foreword for one of Hapgood's works. While Einstein stopped short of endorsing the idea of lost civilizations, he acknowledged that the evidence presented raised significant questions about human prehistory. For Hapgood, the implications were profound. If the Piri Reis Map is indeed based on source material from an ancient advanced culture, then much of what we understand about human development may need to be re-evaluated. But skeptics argue that the map's resemblance to Antarctica is coincidental or a misinterpretation. They point out discrepancies in the placement of land masses and emphasize that early maps often featured speculative coastlines. Yet the precise placement of South America's eastern coast and the accurate relation between Africa and South America suggest a level of understanding that is difficult to dismiss outright. The possibility remains that this map, and the sources behind it, preserve a fragment of a forgotten global knowledge, long buried beneath the sands of time and the ice of Antarctica. Beyond its mysterious Antarctic coastline, the Piri Reis Map offers further clues hidden within its annotations. Piri Reis himself left written notes along the edges of the parchment, detailing the origins of the source maps and commenting on the lands depicted. One of the most striking aspects is his mention of maps dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, which he claimed had been passed down through generations and preserved by mariners and scholars. This claim alone raises profound questions. If true, it suggests a chain of cartographic knowledge reaching back to ancient antiquity, knowledge that may have survived in secret archives, hidden libraries, or through oral tradition before reaching the hands of Renaissance explorers. These annotations are not simply decorative. They suggest that Piri Reis was working with materials whose origins he did not fully understand. He described strange coastlines, unfamiliar islands, and uncharted territories with a tone of reverence and mystery. In some cases, he even acknowledged that certain features had been copied exactly from previous charts without knowing their true significance. This admission implies a map that was more compilation than creation, a mosaic of knowledge that had survived, fragmentary and unexplained, from a distant past. Among the puzzling features of the map is the level of detail in the South American coastline. Rivers are depicted with remarkable accuracy, and mountain ranges align closely with known geographies. Yet this was drawn at a time when much of the continent had not yet been explored by Europeans. How could a 16th-century admiral possess such specific information? Mainstream historians suggest that Piri Reis may have had access to lost Portuguese charts brought back from early voyages. But this explanation does not account for the consistency between the map and features only confirmed centuries later. The possibility that this map represents a glimpse into a much older world, a snapshot of Earth as it once appeared, is difficult to ignore. If the Piri Reis Map indeed reflects a pre-glacial Antarctica, then its source material must be not hundreds, but thousands of years old. And if it draws upon knowledge that predates the last ice age, then we are forced to consider whether humanity's timeline is far longer and more complex than currently accepted. The notion of ancient global navigation has long been dismissed as pseudoscience, yet there are recurring anomalies that defy easy categorization. The Piri Reis Map is not alone. Other maps from the same era, including the Orontius Phineas Map and the Buach Map, also appear to show southern polar regions without ice. These overlapping examples strengthen the case that such knowledge was not isolated, but part of a broader, now lost understanding of Earth's geography. Was there once a civilization capable of circumnavigating the globe long before the age of exploration? And if so, what became of them and their knowledge? The Piri Reis Map may be one of the few surviving clues to a forgotten chapter in human history, preserved not in stone or ruin, but in ink on a scrap of parchment. Mainstream scholars have approached the Piri Reis Map with caution, offering more conservative explanations for its apparent anomalies. They argue that the resemblance to Antarctica is overstated, and the map's features have been misinterpreted through the lens of modern expectations. According to this view, the southern landmass on the map is not Antarctica at all, but an exaggerated extension of South America, or a stylized artistic representation common in 16th-century cartography. This interpretation is supported by the fact that early maps often included speculative geography, blending known territories with imagined lands at the edges of the known world. Historians point to the techniques available to cartographers of the time. Mapping relied heavily on dead reckoning, visual observation, and limited celestial navigation. The concept of longitude, crucial for accurate east-west placement, was not reliably measurable until the invention of the marine chronometer in the 18th century. Therefore, any apparent precision in maps like that of Piri Reis is often attributed to chance alignments or artistic license, rather than evidence of ancient technological sophistication. Academic voices such as Gregory Mackintosh, who conducted extensive analysis of early world maps, contend that the Piri Reis Map fits comfortably within the scope of 16th-century geographical understanding. He notes that distortions and inaccuracies in the map are consistent with the limitations of the time, particularly when copying from multiple source maps. According to Mackintosh, the southern continent depicted may have been inspired by medieval beliefs in a vast southern landmass, terra australis incognita, a hypothetical continent thought necessary to balance the landmasses of the northern hemisphere. Furthermore, critics argue that if the map truly depicted an ice-free Antarctica, the details should extend further inland. Instead, the map offers only coastal outlines without indication of interior features, mountain ranges, or ice shelves. This, they say, is more consistent with a rough guess or misinterpretation than with an accurate survey of the continent. These mainstream theories do provide rational counterpoints to the more exotic claims. They emphasize caution and skepticism, reminding us of the limitations in interpreting ancient documents through modern frameworks. Yet, these explanations often fail to address the full scope of the map's anomalies. They struggle to explain the consistent geographical accuracy in regions that had supposedly not yet been charted. And they overlook the deeper question: how could so many independent maps from the Renaissance era contain similarly unexplainable features if all of them were simply products of conjecture? While scholarly voices urge a more grounded interpretation, the allure of the unknown persists. The map remains a riddle that, even under careful academic scrutiny, refuses to be fully dismissed. It exists in the liminal space between accepted history and the forgotten knowledge of the ancient world, inviting debate, speculation, and re-examination of what we truly know about humanity's past. Even among academic circles, the Piri Reis Map invites unresolved questions that cannot be easily explained away by conventional reasoning. One of the most persistent dilemmas is the map's inclusion of features that were only verified centuries later through satellite and seismic imaging. While mainstream scholars dismiss the Antarctic connection, the correlation between the map's coastal outlines and the subglacial contours of Queen Maud Land continues to provoke debate. If this resemblance is more than coincidence, then the implications extend far beyond simple cartographic curiosity. They touch on the very timeline of civilization itself. What makes this question more pressing is Piri Reis's own admission that he relied on ancient sources. If these sources predated his map by many centuries, as he claimed, then we must ask, who originally created these reference charts? And how did they acquire such a refined understanding of coastlines that would remain hidden to the rest of the world for hundreds, possibly thousands of years? These questions have yet to be resolved by traditional historical frameworks. Instead, they open the door to a broader field of inquiry that considers the possibility of knowledge preserved from an earlier era, one that predates even the oldest recognized civilizations. This brings us to the inconsistencies found in the traditional narrative of human progress. According to mainstream archaeology, complex civilizations began appearing around 5,000 years ago, with Sumer, Egypt, and the Indus Valley forming the earliest known urban societies. Before that, humanity is believed to have lived primarily in small, tribal groups with no large-scale architecture, navigation, or written knowledge. And yet, the implications of the Piri Reis Map suggest otherwise. If this map is even partially based on pre-glacial or prehistoric knowledge, it hints at the presence of a forgotten people who possessed global navigation skills and sophisticated geographic understanding long before the dawn of modern civilization. Adding to the mystery is the complete absence of written records detailing such ancient cartographic efforts. No known texts describe global mapping projects prior to the classical period. Yet Piri Reis and other Renaissance cartographers speak of source maps of uncertain origin, passed down through time and stored in private collections, monasteries, or hidden archives. Could it be that these maps survived the destruction of earlier civilizations? The burning of libraries, the fall of empires, or even global cataclysms might have erased nearly all trace, leaving behind only fragments like the Piri Reis chart to hint at what was once known. These lingering contradictions fuel the sense that we are missing an essential piece of the human story. If the Piri Reis Map is a remnant of that missing chapter, then it becomes not just a historical artifact, but a gateway to questions that defy easy answers. Why do similar unexplained maps exist across multiple cultures? Who preserved this knowledge through centuries of upheaval? And why does the traditional academic community remain hesitant to fully confront these anomalies? These unresolved tensions point to a deeper mystery, one that lies hidden not only beneath the ice, but beneath the surface of our accepted history. Outside the bounds of mainstream academia, a wide range of alternative researchers have proposed bold and speculative interpretations of the Piri Reis Map. These ideas, though controversial, offer intriguing frameworks for understanding how such detailed geographic knowledge could have found its way into a 16th-century Ottoman chart. Among the most widely discussed is the theory that the map is a surviving fragment of a lost global civilization, one capable of sea travel, cartography, and possibly even aerial observation. According to this line of thinking, the map is not an anomaly, but evidence of an advanced culture that existed long before the known rise of human civilization. Proponents of this theory often point to the recurring motif of cataclysm in ancient mythology. Texts from Sumer, Egypt, India, and Mesoamerica all speak of a time before a great flood, when knowledge was abundant and gods walked among men. Some interpret these stories as symbolic recollections of real events, perhaps even global disasters that wiped out technologically advanced societies. If such civilizations once existed, their survivors may have preserved fragments of knowledge, including detailed world maps, passing them down through isolated traditions or secret orders over millennia. This leads to even more radical ideas, including those drawn from the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Some theorists believe the original source maps could have come not from human civilizations, but from visitors with far superior technology, beings later remembered as gods, angels, or sky people. According to this view, the Piri Reis Map is not just a historical curiosity, but a leftover artifact from an age of contact between humanity and advanced non-human intelligences. Such ideas find support in the precision of ancient engineering, unexplained megaliths, and mythologies that describe beings descending from the heavens with knowledge of the stars and the earth. There are also theories involving ancient lost continents, Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria, said to have housed highly advanced cultures that disappeared under the sea or were buried beneath cataclysms. Advocates of this perspective argue that if such a continent had once existed in the southern hemisphere, it could explain the appearance of Antarctic-like coastlines on the Piri Reis Map. In this framework, the map might be a preserved snapshot of the world before a major shift in Earth's axis, climate, or geography. an idea echoed in esoteric traditions and alternative geologic models. While these speculative interpretations challenge conventional thinking, they share a central premise, that history as we know it may be incomplete, its foundations resting on fragments of a much deeper past. The Piri Reis Map, with its mysterious accuracy and unknown origins, becomes a symbol of this forgotten knowledge. Whether viewed as a remnant of a lost human civilization, a trace of ancient contact, or a surviving relic from a global catastrophe, it forces us to confront the possibility that our story is far older and far stranger than we have been taught. Beyond the physical implications of what the Piri Reis Map may show lies a deeper symbolic layer of meaning. For many, the map represents more than a geographical anomaly. It symbolizes a rupture in the accepted historical narrative. It challenges the linear model of progress, where knowledge is believed to evolve in a steady upward arc from primitive beginnings to modern complexity. Instead, it suggests the existence of forgotten peaks of understanding, followed by collapse, amnesia, and the slow rediscovery of what was once known. This symbolism resonates with ancient traditions found across cultures. In Hindu cosmology, human history is divided into cyclical ages or yugas, each with its own rise and fall of knowledge and virtue. In Greek philosophy, Plato described a world that had undergone many destructions, where civilization had risen and fallen countless times. Even in Christian and Islamic texts, there are references to antediluvian epochs, eras before the flood when beings of great stature and knowledge walked the earth. The Piri Reis Map, in this context, may be more than a relic. It may be a whisper from one of those forgotten ages, resurfacing just long enough to remind us of what was lost. Culturally, maps have always been tools of power, exploration, and imagination. They reflect not only what we know about the world, but how we think about it. A map that portrays Antarctica ice-free centuries before its discovery disrupts the mental model of historical progression. It suggests that knowledge can be lost, misfiled, or hidden, and that some truths may exist outside the reach of mainstream interpretation. This kind of map forces us to re-evaluate the assumptions on which modern understanding is built. There is also a psychological impact to confronting such an enigma. For those who come across the Piri Reis Map for the first time, it often acts as a gateway, a crack in the surface of accepted history that leads to deeper questioning. If a 16th-century Ottoman admiral could access maps with information unknown to modern science until recent decades, what else might be hidden in plain sight? What other artifacts, texts, or oral traditions might carry echoes of a world far older and more complex than we have been told? The map also challenges the boundaries between myth and fact. Stories of lost continents, ancient navigators, and forgotten global powers have long been relegated to the realm of legend. But when those legends find partial corroboration in real-world objects, like a map that seems to defy time itself, the line between myth and memory begins to blur. The symbolic power of the Piri Reis Map lies in its ability to provoke that discomfort, to unsettle the certainty of history, and to awaken the imagination to a wider, stranger version of the past. In doing so, it serves not just as a historical artifact, but as an invitation to rediscover the forgotten stories of human origin. As we draw together the many threads surrounding the Piri Reis Map, certain themes begin to emerge with clarity. At the heart of the mystery lies a convergence of precision, anomaly, and ambiguity. The coastline attributed to Queen Maud Land beneath the Antarctic ice is not an isolated curiosity, but part of a broader pattern of detailed cartographic features that defy the capabilities of known 16th-century navigation. From the accurate outline of South America to the suggestion of polar geography unknown at the time, the map consistently exceeds the expected boundaries of the era in which it was drawn. The annotations left by Piri Reis himself reinforce the idea that the map was not a product of his own exploration, but a compilation of older sources he admits were obscure and fragmented. These were maps he claimed had been passed down, some of them possibly created in antiquity, or even in mythical times. The idea that information of such precision could survive through centuries of war, conquest, and cultural collapse raises profound questions about who preserved this knowledge and why. Across the globe, other maps from the same period echo similar anomalies. The Piri Reis Map, created in the year 1531, depicts Antarctica with rivers and mountains, as if viewed without its present ice sheet. The Buach map of the 18th century does the same, suggesting an even earlier knowledge of subglacial geography. When examined collectively, these maps suggest a shared source of information that may have circulated quietly through scholarly or esoteric circles, hidden from the public and dismissed by official history. These fragments of forbidden geography, when placed alongside the mythologies of lost civilizations and ancient catastrophes, begin to form a mosaic that hints at a world more advanced and more tragic than we dare imagine. Whether the knowledge originated from a long-lost human culture, remnants of pre-Ice Age seafarers, or contact with entities beyond our comprehension, the result is the same. The history we think we know may be only a partial record, written after the smoke of earlier ages had cleared. At the same time, the resistance from mainstream academia is also telling. For centuries, artifacts and texts that do not conform to the accepted model of history have been ignored, ridiculed, or outright suppressed. The Piri Reis Map, despite its clear implications, is rarely addressed in academic circles today. This silence, whether born of caution or control, only adds to the mystique. It raises the possibility that history, as it is taught and understood, is not merely a record of facts, but a narrative shaped by what is chosen to be remembered and what is allowed to be forgotten. In this sense, the Piri Reis Map is more than an ancient artifact. It is a mirror held up to our understanding of time, knowledge, and human legacy. It does not offer answers, but it demands questions. And in a world increasingly shaped by rediscovered truths and unearthed secrets, that demand becomes impossible to ignore. The Piri Reis Map remains one of the most compelling riddles in the realm of ancient mysteries, not only because of what it appears to show, but because of what it challenges us to reconsider. It stands as a delicate artifact stitched together from layers of time, whispers from vanished libraries, and fragments of knowledge whose origins have long been obscured. The map confronts the boundaries between history and myth, science and speculation, and forces a re-evaluation of humanity's relationship with the past. Its coastline depictions push against the limits of 16th-century technology. Its annotations hint at the survival of ancient charts whose creators may have walked the earth in an age we no longer remember. Whether the source was an advanced pre-Ice Age civilization, a hidden global maritime culture, or something far more difficult to explain, the implications are immense. If the Piri Reis Map is a window into a forgotten epoch of Earth's history, then it is one of the few pieces of evidence we have that the story of human civilization is not linear, but layered, interrupted by cataclysm, rebuilt from memory, and perhaps still echoing with truths buried beneath the weight of time. Even more important than the map's accuracy or provenance is its symbolic power. It dares to ask if the great libraries of Alexandria, Nineveh, or Carthage might have held charts just like it, maps erased by war, fire, or silence. It reminds us that knowledge can be lost as easily as it is gained, and that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from new inventions, but from old things re-examined with new eyes. In a time where satellites orbit the Earth and digital maps guide us down to the inch, the Piri Reis Map remains a relic of an older world, one drawn not with coordinates and computers, but with memory, mystery, and perhaps something more. It endures because it invites wonder. It provokes those willing to question the narrative, and it whispers a possibility that somewhere in the distant past, humanity knew far more than we now remember. Thanks for listening. This has been Ancient Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to unlock full video versions of all our podcasts, plus exclusive documentaries, bonus content, and more, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Just $5 a month gets you everything. Patreon.com/Forbidden Knowledge Network. Subscribe now.